Hello, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the Two Masters DLC and the possibilities of what can be in it as content, as locations, characters, and such and such and such. Now, because of February coming up, and that being potentially the final deadline for the DLC being released, quote unquote, early 2026, I think it's safe to say that at the very latest we'll get that DLC late February, which will be next month. It could happen. It could shadow drop at any moment. Considering they have not spoken a word about it ever since the announcement for it, and there has been no trailers, no teasers, nothing. Team Ninja has been pretty preoccupied advertising Neo 3 for the time being and Fatal Frame. And was it Fatal Fury or Fatal? No, it's Fatal Frame. Fatal Fury is a fighting game. I always get those two confused. But the point is that it's around the corner, and all the excitement towards it, and all this skepticism, and all that, it's gonna happen. And the pricing for it, as always, it's been $20. Like, no matter if you get the game with it, if you don't get the game with it, if you get it separately, it doesn't matter. It's always been $20, and the baseline information we have is that each character gets at least one weapon. From the wording, it sounds like each character just gets the extra one weapon. There's going to be a couple of extra ninja trials. There's going to be at least 2 story missions. And they said something about new mechanics being introduced too. I don't know if the new mechanics are just talking about, the weapons have new features, as in, like, they have different uses than the other ones you already have at your disposal. Like, as I've said many, many times, like Ryu's gauntlet weapon could just be like a ranged weapon, range weapon hybrid. I don't think it'll be solely just a range weapon. I think it's going to be a hybrid. And as far as Yakumo, the scythe might have like a grapple mechanic to it, so you can drag people around. Because in NG2, the scythe had a lot of grapple mechanics. You could literally pierce the enemy with the scythe and swing him up, or slam him down to the ground. You had all those. The 360 UT being one of the infamous ones. Just skewer all your enemies and just slam them down. So, big possibilities of how the scythe can work for Yakumo. But not going to focus too much about weapons, because as always, it's been very vague, yet also very clear that they've said only one extra weapon. More can happen, but I'm not going to bet on it because I don't want to disappoint myself or you guys. Now, switching to the main reason why I wanted to make this video in the first place is because there has been a very, very distinct lack of Ryu-related things. One of the main things that has been in the back of my mind is Haramusa-san. The good old, not Haramusa, that's ZZ character. Sorry, Muramasa. The shop, the guy, the actual master of the master smith. He's the GOAT. He is actually arguably the strongest character in verse, considering that he flexes on Ryu, which Ryu is known to be the strongest character. But like, Muramasa is like, yeah, kid, like, I'm something else. You'll get here when you get like 1,000 years old or some shit. So yeah, it's been very, very apparent that Muramasa is nowhere to be found. You have his shop, you have a remix of his music, which sounds alright, but like no sign of him, and that's interesting to me because a character like that has always been with Ryu, even in 3. Despite you not having shops in 3, Muramasa pops up and talks to Ryu here and there. In 2, same thing. He was your vendor and he talks to you most missions. He even actually assists you in combat in 2. And in 1, of course, introduction, he's been there too. But he's been nowhere to be found in NG4. And I think that's because they might be saving him for a cameo appearance in the Two Masters DLC. No, if you're talking about Master, right, like, Muramasa should be included in that. Now, I know most of you are going to be thinking, like, Ayane, Momiji, Ayane, Kasune. Like, they've already confirmed that it's called the Two Masters for a reason. They're going to focus on the Two Master Ninjas, which is Ryu and Yakumo. Is it exclusive? No, of course not. There could always be cameos. There could always be other characters. There could always something else can happen that you don't expect, and that's the exciting thing about these DLCs and like just post-launch content is because you never know what exactly you're getting. And that's what I'm looking forward to. And for Ryu specifically, and I know I'm probably setting myself up here with like big unrealistic expectations, but what's the fun in not doing that? I'm not gonna be mad about it if it doesn't happen. But like one of my things was that I kind of want Ryu to have a revamped Genshin fight. Considering Genshin is arguably the best designed boss fight in NG period ever, um, minus some bosses from one. One's boss fights are pretty good. Like Genshin has always been the pinnacle of like you are fighting a rival that's on your footing. Of course, you as a player you have the advantage all the time, but Genshin's always been fair. He doesn't have cheap attacks. He doesn't have like tracking grabs that travel full screen and like one shot. He doesn't have any of that. He's been fair. He's been on equal footing. You can launch him. You can combo him. You can do all that. If you counter him, you actually properly can treat him like a normal enemy. You're not hitting the brick wall like every other enemy and boss in this game. It's everything else is just like a pillar you're attacking to chip down at their health. There's barely any interactions with most enemies. Flying enemies most of the time don't have the flying swallow interaction where you can hit him out of the air, stun lock him for big damage. Like mainly Alma is the only consistent one that has that in NG1. So I'm thinking bringing back one of the best boss fights, if not the best boss fight in this game, and putting it in Ryu's DLC would be fantastic. Fighting Genshin with Ryu would just be amazing. And considering that the deluxe edition gives you the NG3 skin and the Archfiend blade, which I am constantly and nonstop will use, it would be a really cool way that the way you get Ryu's new weapon, or hear me out here, the Genshin side boss fight in the Two Masters DLC. This is hypothetical. Again, I'm not saying Genshin's in there. I'm just saying if they would have done such a thing, it would be really cool if Genshin is a boss fight you fight. There will be no point into it, of course, because Ryu's already bested Genshin 3 times. The first fight was a draw, sure, whatever, but like he proceeds to beat Genshin multiple times after that. So I would think that it would be really cool if you could have like a rival fight, like a proper rival fight catered to Ryu exclusively. Because Yakumo's rival fight is Ryu. It pops up twice. I would consider Kagashi, but no, it's Ryu because Ryu is the only one that actually pops up. Granted, Yakumo probably doesn't actually hold a candle up to Ryu in actual combat that's not held back. But yeah, I would like to say like Ryu having like a semi-training with like a mental fight with Genshin, something like maybe he's training in area with Haramusa chilling and preparing his like shop or something, and Ryu's just relaxing for the very, very short time he gets to actually relax with everything going on in the verse. He's just chilling with Muramasa because they're buddies. Muramasa is smithing away, like maybe Muramasa is repairing the Archfiend blade, right? And like Ryu is just having like this mental fight with Genshin in his head to reminisce. That could be a cool thing, and then you actually get the Archfiend blade as like a weapon, maybe, and not just a skin. Maybe it'll have the unique attacks that it has in G3 that he sends out shockwaves and stuff. That would be cool. I don't think it's gonna happen. It's just an idea and a possibility. Because we know that most likely both of them will have a boss fight. Because it's just it would suck that like if Yakumo gets a stage but no boss fight, and like same vice versa, like Ryu gets a stage, no boss fight. Although I am very open to the possibility of Yakumo getting a stage and a boss fight, and Ryu just gets a stage, no boss fight, or a boss fight, no stage, which is not true because they already confirmed 2 story missions, right? So most likely both of them will contain a boss. The obvious answer might be here is that your boss fight with Yakumo's stage might be Tyron, because Tyron has been hyped up a lot. Tyron is practically the strongest of the Raven clan. He's the cleanup unit. He is the person that takes care of rogue ninjas, and like he personally likes Yakumo so much that he trains him. He still charges him for moves and stuff, but he actually personally trains him and oversees him in missions. For someone of that status, he doesn't really need to do it. His main thing is that he charges too much money. He cares about money a lot, like ninja coins or whatever. He cares about that a lot. So he's very expensive. He's a very expensive shinobi to actually hire to do stuff. So the fact that he personally has taken an interest in Yakumo, one of the biggest prodigies in the Raven Clan, is that he sees something in that kid, and it implies that yes, if you are training this kid, that means you are a status above him at the time, right? Eventually, Yakumo will get to a point where he's probably surpasses Tyrant, but the game so far, if you read the bios and everything, implies that Tyrant is still somewhat above Yakumo. This might have changed at the end of the game of NG4, where Yakumo becomes Master Ninja, so he might have a higher status than Tyrant now, but I don't think so. I think Tyrant's still the top dog of the Raven clan. But yeah, I think, and he's a scythe user. Tyrant actually uses a Reaper scythe, or whatever you want to call it. He's a farmer, or a farmer. He probably hands either the weapon to Yakumo to use Blood Raven form and all that, or and I don't think this is the case. I don't think Yakumo's going to kill Tyrant to get his weapon. No, I think it's just going to be like a passed down thing. It's like, hey kid, you should probably try this. It's cool, underrated, cool ass weapon, and he gets the scythe. As for Ryu, those weapons come from something, and the shape of the weapon looks like it's a head of something. It kind of does look like the Dark Dragon. I don't think we're gonna have like a DMC situation here where Ryu beats the Dark Dragon like in the past, like like the flashback thing, like he took down that Dark Dragon and then the seal got released on it because of Achilles. Like I don't think he's gonna be like, yeah, I took down the Dark Dragon and it turned into a weapon like in DMC. That when you defeat demons, it turn into weapons. I don't think it's gonna be like that. I think it's gonna Ryu's weapons are usually crafted from something or just ancient relics locked up or stashed somewhere. They're never like manifested, as far as I can tell. I think the only manifestation one was the Dark Dragon Blade. That one is kind of like comes to be from like different supernatural things. But yeah, I think Ryu is going to have like a unique dragon fight. Is it the Dark Dragon? Maybe. Or maybe it's completely something else. And as I said, it could just be reminiscent of an old boss fight and Muramasa just hands you a weapon. And because, as I've said, it's crafted weapons, who else better to craft Ryu's weapon than the master swords craftsman himself? And as far as cameos, Muramasa being at the top of my list because I feel like he should be in the game. The fact that you don't even get the Irashais the same way is, it's kind of sad. I actually want Muramasa to pop up and talk to Ryu here and there. And the other candidates become Ayane, Momiji, and Kasumi. I don't think... Not Kasumi. But yeah, I don't think those two will appear anymore. Ayane might pop up on like a comms call or something, but that was an accidental parry. I don't think Ayane is going to be involved in the two matches you'll see too much. And if any of you expect her to be playable, and I will sorry to shatter your dreams, but as I've said before, already confirmed to not be focused on Ayane. Momiji has always been a big companion of Ryu, and especially in Yaiba. I know we're talking about Ninja Yaiba in 2026 should be considered a cardinal sin, but Momiji is usually very involved with Ryu because she heavily respects him. It's like kind of a sister figure for Ryu, like a little sister. So she looks up to him, and she is shrine maiden for Ryu practically at that point, right? It's like most clans have dedicated shrine maiden, like Yakumo's would have been Sayori, and for the Hayabusa clan, it is a Momiji for the most part. So Momiji might pop up. I'm hoping she will, but I think the chances of Ayane popping up is way higher than Momiji being shown up. What a cheap attack. Anyways, as far as release date, as I've said, late February will be the latest. It is possible that it could pop up at the very start of March or mid-March, but I wouldn't put my chips on it. I'm pretty sure it's going to be around February, because someone was talking or asking Team Ninja when the DLC is going to be, and Team Ninja replied with, quote, I quote, soon ... So considering how they've been focused on just advertising Neo 3 right now, because the demo came out for that too. I think we're not too far. And keep in mind, for the most part, Platinum Games is working on NG4, right? So it's two different teams. It's not like they're backlogging because they don't have enough people working on stuff. It's like, no, they're Platinum Games is working on everything going on with the combat and the level design and all that with NG4, which is the hard part of it. And Team Ninja is probably the most the distribution and just the overseers, which, again, nothing falls off of them to do that. But the important thing right now is Neo 3, because Neo 3 is one of the most successful franchises, considering how it's not even like a 10 decade-year-old franchise. Although I think we're coming close to a 10-year anniversary for Neo, like in a year or two. I gotta look up on that actually a little bit. I think we're like a year or two away from that, year and a half. Neo's gonna be 10 years. But going back to the Two Masters DLC, besides from everything I've said, there is always a small possibility that we'll get a second DLC. There might be more to this game later. I don't think so personally. I think they're just gonna opt to do another edition of this game in a year or two. But the elephant in the room has been that the Team Ninja has not spoken about the sales figures for NG at all. They never brought it up, one, and two, they have not. There was a annual report for Team Ninja, and apparently Ninja Gaiden's sales have not passed the previous number. So I don't know if that means they're not considering it because it's a shared project between two different companies. So they don't add it up, which wouldn't make no sense in my opinion. Or maybe it's outdated, or maybe it's not included because Game Pass plays a big part in NG4. But yeah, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how Game Pass throws a wrench in sales numbers. For the most part, I just know it doesn't do them any favors for the most part. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think this game has done like bad in the sense of like, oh, we never want to touch NG again. I think that's a funny pose review. I just think that it hasn't cracked 1 million yet, which sounds horrible for this day and age for your games. And as legendary as NG is, it is still considered a niche franchise, and that is a hard pill to swallow even for me. Like I refuse to believe something as cool and as like memorable as NG is considered quote unquote niche. But it's not your your big titles. It's not your God of Wars. It's not your DMCs. It's not your like your fucking Last of Us. It's not those Souls like Dark Souls and all that. It's not those franchises. But like if you ask anybody, like they know what Ninja Gaiden is for the most part. Most gamers know what Ninja Gaiden is. But when it comes to sales figures, it's it's usually hasn't been like that big compared to the actual like big franchise. But moving away from that, because it is a very gray area. I don't know what's the actual thing behind it, so let's not poke around that nest till we actually get some solid answers from Team Ninja themselves. Now, with that said, I'm going to leave you guys with this to chew on for now because we don't have much information on the Two Masters DLC. I know plenty of people are excited and nervous about what we're receiving. My approach to this has been, even for the game itself, my approach has been mostly, I'm going to be excited about it, but I'm not going to hype myself too much. But, it's like, you want to be excited, but you don't want to be too excited so you can get disappointed, right? That would be the safe way to approach it. I know it's a little generic, but it's a safe way to approach it so you don't ruin your excitement. Because if you expect too much and the game doesn't meet up those expectations, you're gonna spoil yourself, because every second you play the game, you're gonna be like, we could have had this, we could have had that, and that just ruins and diminishes the fun you can have in the game. So hopefully that doesn't happen with most of you, but you are right to have any feelings you want. You're entitled to your opinion and your expectations. So, but just don't get mad at the developers for not matching up, your expectations. Like, I'm not expecting a Genshin fight. I just think it will be really cool. But there's like a 0% chance like that's gonna happen. But if it does, imagine how cool it would be. Anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.